school called Lake Alice, which is about 12 miles north and east of here. But the station, the town that they frequented was actually Innisfree, not Viking. And that was, you know, quite an experience for me. At normal school, they taught you a number of things, but none of the things that I really had to know.
Right. I understand too that you actually lived with families while you were teaching,
Yes.
did you?
Yes. Well, yes. My very first paycheck at Lake Alice School was $59 a month, and I paid $25 a month for it, which today would be, you know, disproportionate, paying almost half of what you got to have a roof over your head. And the family were, everybody was hard up in those days, but they had, poor lady had terrible water. And she wasn't a very good cook. I had quite a bit of burnt toast for breakfast and dry sandwiches to take for lunch. It wasn't too good. And I didn't come from luxury, but you know, I really missed home, and I didn't get much for fruit. So, and I didn't get home very often. But the second summer, I actually got a job in the war department. And my shift was from, I think, 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 o'clock at night. And it was mostly filing, not exciting, but anyhow, then some of my friends were going to take a driving trip out to Vancouver Island. So Marjorie gives up her job and goes on holiday because she was invited. My mother must, I think she must really have had kittens because I needed to work, and she needed my help because my father had died the year I went to Normal. So anyhow, I did that, came back. I had to go back teaching because I had to have a job. I came to Viking in the fall of 1943 to a school called Mooresville, which is about 8 or 9 miles out of town here. And I lived in a teacherage. My mother was very concerned about that, and well, she should have been, you know what I mean. I had never lived alone or lived outside my parents' domain, so I'm sure she was concerned. But I had good neighbors, but I had to walk about a quarter of a mile every day to carry a pail of water, and we did have natural gas, so I had a gas stove, and not too much else. Then I had met my husband before. I met the man who became my husband before that, and he knew who I was quite a long time before that. So that was 1943. We were engaged to be married in the spring of 44, and we set June the 30th for our wedding day. And as it happened, the fall before, schools had been closed for 2 weeks because of a polio outbreak. And so in about the end of May, we were told we would have to teach 2 weeks in July, which was unusual. So we got married, and we were going to go out to the coast, but because I had to be back to work on a Monday morning, we went to Ponoka Stampede. Good deal. And our wedding was unusual too, because we were married at St. Paul's Anglican Church in Edmonton, but we had my husband had his brother's car, and his brother was coming on the train to be the best man. Well, the train was late and later and latest. We just barely got married before midnight, and if we hadn't got married before midnight, we wouldn't have got married that weekend because the minister would not have married us on a Sunday. We lived the first year, almost a year, with my husband's family. I married into a strong family of great people, and often people ask me, what's your recipe for getting old? And I don't have one, but I did marry into a strong family. I did have a wonderful husband, and I did raise 3 wonderful kids. And I think being happy is almost, my husband had a tremendous sense of humor, and he could find something light in everything that didn't seem so light to me. So our first child was born in '45, and then that summer we moved on to a farm that my husband rented. And when she was 6 months old, I actually went back teaching at Mooresville. In Mooresville School, his mother, James's mother, had been the first teacher at Mooresville. And I did teach there. And I was able to stay at home. I had to walk about 1.5 miles. My husband had to teach me how to crawl fences and walk along a fence line to get there, because it was much shorter than going around the road. He had to teach me, he had to teach me a lot of things. He even had to teach me how to sew. And I'd take it home ec, but I don't know what she taught me. I must not know anyhow he taught me. To use the sewing machine. That was one of our first little trips, was to buy a new sewing machine. And we would have to go to Vegreville to get it. I think to be a good farmer's wife, I thought then, I don't know what I think now for sure, but I thought you almost had to be raised on the farm. You had to grow up doing some of those things. I didn't learn too much about it until my children were, till I had Dawn and Diane. And I went back teaching. We moved to the family farm, to the family farm. And then I went back to, Diane was about 3 years old when we went up to the farm. And I learned to milk cows, and I learned to carry 5-gallon pails of chalk and all those things. But it took me half an hour to milk a cow, and I was exhausted when I was finished. And that career came to an end when we had a cow that kicked, and Judy had the kickers on that cow. Shortly thereafter that, I thought, if I'm going to be any help around here, I better get busy and teach, because I'm not going to make a very good farmer's wife. My children loved the farm, and we talked. The first years we were out there were very dry, and it was difficult to keep up with the expenses. And I think we would have left, because my husband could work easily, and but my children loved the farm, and they actually still do. They became adept at doing all the things that I wasn't too good at. The children had to walk half a mile up to the gas line road to catch the school bus until we moved up there, and then they were in high school. When I think about it now, I wouldn't send my children to school under those conditions, because they had to be up to meet that bus at 7 o'clock in the morning. That meant, they had to get up, they had to have their breakfast, and all that. They were, it was a long day, and the bus didn't get to school until about 2 minutes to 9. So they were on that bus all that time. They'd done a day's work before they ever got in the classroom. Today I wouldn't send them to homeschool, but they never complained.
And I understand you've also taught the famous Sutter boys.
I taught all the Sutter boys, and I'm very happy about that. And so are they. I get a hug from them all the time. And I taught Ben Sather too. And Ben was in my class, and he used to, his desk was over by the windows. He used to walk. He was the last kid coming in from the hall, the last kid at the water fountain. And as he walked by my desk, he used to have to wipe the drips off his face. And carried his, I don't think he ever opened his textbooks that he carried, because he was at the rink till midnight. Pretty well every day. So yeah, they were good years. And I just got a very nice letter here about a couple of months ago from a fellow who was in my classroom. the first year I went back. And he wrote me such a complimentary letter that, you know, you don't really always know what kind of an influence you have on children. And it's nice to be told that it was good, so.
Can you share that?
Can I share? Well, he just said that I got him started on the road to life. And, I was patient, you know, I didn't lose my cool very easily. And I think being a successful teacher, teaching is a two-way street, just like parenting is. You get what you give. If you respect the kids and you expect from they do the same, and it works. They work, and you have to make the rules when you walk in that door the first morning. I actually taught until 1978. My husband was a brand inspector, and he had rented out the farm primarily, and so he was gone a lot. And it happened to be the year that the government had provided pretty good funding to farmers for cattle shopping. I can't remember just why. They wanted to increase the cattle herds in Alberta. And he had to go to many farms to give the okay. And so he'd be gone all day and I'd be coming home. And anyhow, I decided I didn't need to be working anyhow. So I retired and then I could go with him. Sad to say he had a stroke just a few days before his 64th birthday. But he got through that. He did lapidary work, you know, stone grinding and making jewelry, and he still could do that. I used to worry about him because his left hand wasn't too good, but he had 11 years after that. He didn't go until 91. But so those years, we traveled quite a bit. I traveled a lot, and my husband, he traveled a fair. You know, like I think even men still today, when it comes to talking them into taking a trip, they have several excuses why they don't really think they should take it. In 1988. Somebody talked me into letting my names down for council, and I did, and that kept me very busy, and that's when I did actually some of the things that I'm quite proud of. Then I had got the town to enter Communities in Bloom, and we were very successful in that. We won at our local level the first time, and the second time at the federal level, and then we won the international level with the community from England.
What does it feel like to be a living treasure?
Well, it feels great. Okay. And it's nice to know that I've had some impact on the community and on people's lives. I appreciate being able to experience that feeling.